With water and words, we celebrate Aubrey. We celebrate her life. We celebrate her as a spiritual being immersed in this human experience. We'll use water to signify her connection with all of life. Above her are the stars. Beneath her is the earth, and within her is the light of life. We will bless her with this water, that like the earth, her life might be grounded in the essentials, in the things that matter always. We'll share the gift of light with her, with our prayer that her spirit will shine over the course of her life. And we'll bless her with words that she may know that we share her journey in her search for meaning and purpose in her life. Amanda and Kirtland, by what name shall this child be known? And you didn't give her all the names you two have, but what's her full name?
Aubrey Elizabeth Hewitt.
Aubrey Elizabeth Hewitt. Aubrey, we are going to say some words to you together. We welcome you to the embrace of this community. You will always have a place in this circle. We invite you to nurture your spiritual life with us. Amanda and Kirtland, do you seek to celebrate Aubrey's belovedness with a consciousness that each of us is part of an all-encompassing spirit in which we live and move and have our being? Do you seek to provide opportunities for your child to learn and live the wisdom of Jesus of Nazareth, the enduring wisdom traditions of the world, embracing discovery and creating possibilities for her to experience the sacred more deeply? Do you seek to live with an open heart, open to the spirit of life that is within you, among us, and between us, open to the wounds and joys of creation and the needs of the world? Do you seek to teach your child to celebrate the sacredness of life, to cultivate a spiritual life, to live with respect in creation, to be loving and serving others, to seek goodness and justice? Andrea, Keisha, Seon, and Dakota, recognizing that so many nurture the life of a child, as godparents, will you guide and encourage this child with your words and your actions, supporting her in her spiritual development? If so, would you say, we do? Will you seek to share your wisdom and experience with her, helping her to learn the enduring values of our spiritual experience and our sacred traditions? If so, would you say, we do?
And now, as the spiritual community, let us pledge our support and care.
As a baptizing community, we commit ourselves to be a source of support and encouragement to your family. We offer to share our stories, wisdom, and experience with you. And we welcome you and your child to journey with us as we seek to deepen the awareness of our spiritual essence and our social responsibility.
Godparent team, I invite the four of you to come over here and pour some of the water from this pitcher into the base of the fountain.
Anywhere.
Yeah. In water, we are born. Of water, we are made. With water, we are refreshed. By water, we are sustained. With water, this child is welcomed and celebrated. recalling the image of Spirit brooding over the waters in the beginning, bringing forth life in all its many forms, we celebrate the gift of life. For the stories of water that are passed down to us in our tradition, for the birthing waters of our primal beginning, for the grieving waters of a drenched earth, for the liberating waters of Exodus, for the life-sustaining water in the wilderness, for the healing waters in the stories of the generations gone before us, and for this and every wet beginning which gives us life and life again. We give thanks for the water which bless our lives and water our hopes. May we be joined to one another as a beloved community of water and word, of story and song, of spiritual values and practices. May it be so.
I'll keep her bottled. You can hold the bottle for me. Why stop eating when you don't have to? And avoid crying at all costs. Aubrey Elizabeth Hewitt, I baptize you in the name of love. May the source of love be your strength. May the love we learn in Jesus of Nazareth and in the great wisdom teachers of the world be your guide. And may the spark of love from which you came, in which you live, and to which you return, be your wisdom today and always. Friends, this is Aubrey Elizabeth Hewitt. Friends, this is Aubrey Elizabeth Hewitt.
We call you beloved.
We gift you this candle, which we invite you to receive, as a symbol of the light that shines in Aubrey. May it be a reminder of her light and how it joins with ours, and how it joins with the light from which the entire cosmos began.
May you share the story of this day often, and that Aubrey may know that she is loved and embraced, come what may. May the blessing of a life of love and light be alive in you today and with you always. May it be so.
Our Kids Spirit and Youth Cafe programs are taking a little break for the summer. If you're a smaller person with us today and you're looking for something to do, you'll find some activities here at the back, and you're welcome to take your place at that table anytime. We're going to sing a song we haven't sung very often, a newer song for us, as we share and affirm this sense of connection that we celebrate in baptism, together, not alone. I want to share a very old story, a kind of foundational story about a hero in the Judeo-Christian tradition, a hero we know by the name of Moses, and this is the story of how he got his name. Someone from the house of Levi married a Levite woman, and the woman conceived and bore a child. And when she saw that he was a very fine boy, because of the rule of terror in the land in which he was born, she hid him for 3 months. And when she couldn't hide him anymore, she got a papyrus basket for him and plastered it with bitumen and pitch, and she put the child and placed it among the reeds on the bank of the river. The child's sister stood at a distance to watch over and to see what would happen to him. As it happened, the princess, the daughter of Pharaoh, came down to bathe in the river, and while her attendants walked beside the river, she saw the basket among the reeds, and she sent her maid to get it. When she opened it, she saw the child. He was crying, and she had compassion on him. "This must be one of the Hebrew children," she said. Then his sister said to the princess, Pharaoh's daughter, "Shall I go and get a nurse from among the Hebrew women to nurse the child for you?" And Pharaoh's daughter said yes. So the girl went and called the child's own mother. And Pharaoh's daughter said to the child's mother, "Take this child and nurse it for me, and I will give you wages." So the woman took the child and nursed it, and when the child grew up, she brought him to Pharaoh's daughter, and she took him as her son, and she named him Moses, Moshe, because his name meant, "I drew him out of the waters." In this ancient story of naming a child, A beloved friend of ours makes her home in Regina, and she has recently published a collection of her poems and stories entitled Remnants. And the two short poems I want to read for you just now are the story of the naming of a child that Ruth, the author whose picture you find on the far right, and her partner Brenda, whom you find on the other side of Rebecca, have raised, and this child together with her parents as their own. And this is a story of how Rebecca got her name. The first poem is entitled Consolation. Coming into the world, you were injured. Your life changed forever, and ours. After a few weeks in neonatal intensive care, your baby chart named you Inconsolable Infant. We named you Rebecca Hope and took you home. You, now a beautiful woman, shape and claim your own name and life, giving and taking admiration, inspiration, dedication, transmogrification, and yes, consolation. Transmogrification, I discovered, means changing form. And her poem Beyond Spoken Language. Somewhere at day 3 or so of our vigil, your first name came, Rebecca, spelled like in the Bible. And then on the 4th or 5th, your second name came, Hope, spelled like a prayer, a plea, a promise. Coming into this world a full-term, healthy 9-pound baby girl, life turned on a dime by accident, by incident, by error. In the fog between hope and despair, we were told that your brain stem suffered injury and that your failure to thrive was because you could not suck or swallow. With so little muscle for what we were facing and no practice, with surrender, we followed your tiny, injured body. We surrendered to your G-tube. With it came another need to surrender. This one, many tries, more time. Back up and take a run at it, try again and again to get past the deep ruts of loss. Mouth-eating words and word forming go together. You would have neither. You made your way through narrow places and outgrew failure to thrive. You knew even then that bonding is by touch, by instinct, by intuition, by heart, beyond words. Now you are a woman and I am nearly old. I know the curve of my heart, shaped and reshaped by you, and your star-shining eyes and compelling laugh, your beautiful heart and your insistence on being a good friend and making your contribution and loving this life, your life, day by day. You teach me to listen into the places where sounds come from and where they go, to reach and yield and wander in the field of resounding love beyond spoken language. In this story of naming a child,
let the light of love shine through. Let the light of love shine through. May the best of who I am be the source of what I do. Let the light of love shine through. And I will share a heart of love, and I will do the work of love. This is my vow. Let the light of love shine through. Let the light of love shine through. May the best of who I am be the source of what I do. Let the light of love shine through. And I will speak the words of love, and I will live a life of love. This is my vow. Let the light of love shine through. Let the light of love shine through. May the best of who I am be the source of what I do. Let my light of love shine through. Let the light of love shine through.
Kirtland and Amanda, you know it's no small thing to give someone a name. I was teasing Kurt and Amanda about this act of naming because Kirtland's full name is Kirtland Darren Tyler McIsaac Hewitt. And Amanda's full name is Amanda Pamela Mary Bourgoin. So they only took 3 names to give their child. Out of all those possibilities, they found 3 names for Aubrey. We know it's no small thing to give someone a name. It's a huge responsibility. It's one of the most personal, at the same thing, our name is one of the most public things about us. And it holds a huge power over our lives. Just try to not hear your name whispered somewhere in a loud room. And when parents get it right, it's a significant part of our identity. And we can't imagine ourselves with a different name. If our name were different, we'd be different. And when our name doesn't fit, we search for one that does, and somewhere along the way, it finds us or we find it. When someone speaks our name, they call us out of anonymity. They have our attention whether we want to give it or not. And when someone misspeaks our name, in some way we are misrepresented. And when someone forgets our name, in some way we are forgotten. It would be a fascinating thing to pause here in this moment and to take the time to tell each other the story of our name or the story of our relationship with our name. We have a family name, most of us, that carries a long story of ancestry in place. And we have given names, some of us 1 or 2, some of us a handful. We have given names that become our face in the world. And sometimes our name carries the legacy of others who've gone before us, or it carries the creativity of our parents, or out of all the possible names, it is the name they recognized us to be in those first moments of relationship with us. In many cultures, there are traditions around naming. Birth order assigns a particular given name. Or in other cultures, names are descriptive. Like our Indigenous brothers and sisters name the world in powerfully descriptive ways, with names that carry something important in identifying what's named. You are the one who sees, or you are running bull, or you are the trickle of water. And the ancient Hebrew language was like this too. In that story we heard a moment ago about Moses, Moshe, he was the one drawn out of the water. That's his name. To tell someone your name is to tell someone something very significant about you. You're the one who was drawn out of the water. That's your identity. That's who you are. Our capacity to name is so fundamental in our species that most of our creation myths say something about this. One of the stories of our emergence as a species in the Judeo-Christian tradition ends with the creating energy, bringing all the creatures to the human, for the human to give names. Out of the ground, every creature of the field and every bird of the air was formed and brought to the human to see what the human would name them, and whatever the human called them, that was its name. This power to name is an amazingly creative capacity we have, and it's a powerful responsibility. When life is brought to us, we name it. Whether it's a child or a pet, or a community, or an organization, or a building, or an experience, or an insight, whatever it is, we name it. In my first position in ministry, I served a very small congregation on what was then the western boundary of the city of Calgary. It named itself Valley View Presbyterian Church, which seemed so ironic to me because it had a fantastic, breathtaking view of mountains. And it was a very small community where I could have learned everyone's name in the first 5 minutes, except that they named everything. They named their horses and their vehicles and their birds and their cats and their dogs and their children. And so I was afraid to ask about someone by name because I was afraid I would be asking how their horse was doing in university. But just like we name parks and businesses and schools, we name spiritual communities like ours too. 51 years ago, this community was given a descriptive name. If you were British or Scottish or Irish, you knew Minster, not minister, Minster meant a parish area, like town boundaries. So you were Westminster if you were in the west, or you were Eastminster if you were in the east. We were Southminster because we were in the southern part of the city. We were Southminster United, because United's our family name. That's our clan name. That tells the tribe that we belong to. And so we began with a name that describes what part of the Canadian Protestant family we were part of, the United Church of Canada, and where we were located. Southminster United Church. And then 10 years later, as the city expanded to the south and another spiritual community was created, it took a name. It took a name just like a neighborhood and a school in this area took that name. A name that would carry the legacy of an Ojibwe-born man named Henry Bird Steinhauer. He wasn't born with that name, but he took that name as his identity as an Indigenous man who embraced the Christian tradition and became a significant religious leader in Western Canada. And as one gathered community. Like Kirkland's family, we did a really hip thing and we hyphenated our name. So we're Southminster Steinhauer United Church. And we put them together in that historical sequence to be known that way. It's a good and storied name we call ourselves. Unlike Moses, whose name in Hebrew told you he was the one drawn from the water, or a place like Wasquashis, a Cree name that tells us it's the place where the bears roam the hills. Our Anglo name doesn't describe our essence, so we've been searching for a shorthand way to say something about who we are. And Claire Woodbury helped us find it in our acronym. The shorthand way to spell Southminster Steinhauer United Church, which everybody does on checks because you can't get it on the line, is SSUC. And those initials held a clue for something about our identity that helped us add a byline to our name to tell us, to describe something about who we are. We are spiritual seekers, united in community. It's a way to begin a conversation about who we are. Finding kind of a shorthand handle to express our essence is a great practice. Try it with your own name sometime. I've been practicing this week. So I am Nancy, she who seeks to stitch thoughts together on a thread of meaning. I have a good friend, Carolyn, who's a musician and a composer, and I've heard her many times name herself, I am Carolyn, she who sings in a long voice. It's our nature to name, to identify people, places, and things. It's integral to our human capacity to name life, to name each other, to name our experience. There's so much for us to learn in that story I shared with you a moment ago, that story in Ruth's poetry about a child born now nearly 30 years ago, a child injured at birth in ways that made it impossible for her to have speech or mobility in her life, a child who was given a strong name, Rebecca Hope Lindenbach, a name given to a child who had been labeled an inconsolable infant, a label that could have defined her destiny. But she was given a name saturated in love and potential that called forth the one she could become. She with the star-shining eyes, she of the compelling laugh, she with the beautiful heart, she who loves this life, her life, she who is so much more than any medical condition, she who is so much more than one who can't swallow or speak or walk. On this day when we celebrate the beginning of Pride Week in our city, Pride Month in so many places, we know all too well the dangers of name-calling and labeling. And in this month in which we honor Indigenous History Month, we know all too well the dangers of taking away one's name, one's identity, one's essence. And we also know how to name ourselves, how to name one another in ways that inspire pride and that enable us to thrive and that help us to learn that there are so many ways to use our incredible capacity to name. What better time could there be as we celebrate a new beloved child of the universe, Aubrey Elizabeth Hewitt, as we celebrate the diversity of gender, gender identity, race, spirituality, language, all the colors of our identity, as we discover partners, new members of Southminster Steinhauer United Church who live across the prairie from us, who knew themselves for many years to be Meewasin Valley United Church, but have now completed that identity and become spiritual seekers, united in community with us. Spiritual seekers in Saskatoon, spiritual seekers in Edmonton, spiritual seekers in so many places that we join with. What better time could there be for us to plant seeds of identity, seeds of potential, seeds of aspiration, naming our highest humanity, naming our essence, naming how it is that we seek to live and with whom we seek to grow. What better time to consider each of us personally the name we call ourselves, beyond the name we were given to put on name tags and wear in the world. What is the name of the deepest truth we seek to express in being ourselves in the world? In this moment, as we hold silence with each other, I invite us to consider that question.
There's some ancient wisdom that goes like this. For everything there is a season, a time for every matter, a time to plant, a time to pluck up what's planted, a time to break down, a time to build up, a time to weep, a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to seek and a time to lose. Alison Brooks Starks, having been part of our ministry team, has now concluded her first 8-month field placement as part of her education in diaconal ministry with the United Church of Canada. Today's time to mark the ending of her ministry of spiritual care here with us at Southminster Steinhauer United Church. It's a time to look back and a time to look forward, a time for joy and a time for sadness. It's a time to give thanks and share gratitude for what Alison has given us and what we've been able to provide to her in our lives and our work together. Alison has been our co-worker, our counselor, our ally, our fellow teacher and learner, and our friend. She's shared her authentic self with us and offered us her wisdom and insight. These were easy words to write and hard to say. She's offered us her wisdom and insight. She's been with us in times of joy and celebration, as well in times of grief within our community. So with joy and sadness, we mark and celebrate this ending to this specific learning ministry with us. So in doing so, we'll do a few things together, but before that, Alison, would you say a few words to us? Share yourself with us another time.
Thank you. I've absolutely loved our year together. I will really miss who you are. You are welcoming. I felt immediately like I was part of the team and part of your community, and this really meant a lot to me. You show bravery. I was continually inspired by your willingness and enthusiasm to look life square in the eye and engage with all the tough questions and the changes that come with finding some surprising answers. And you have spunk. Okay, here's an example. I said, hey, what if we did some gathering times outside, in the dead of winter, in the pitch dark? And you said, oh yeah, that makes sense, okay. I saw this spunk again and again on Sunday mornings, one-on-one, with any type of adventure we could cook up. And after experiences together like this, the tone after was, let's do it again. So thank you for an amazing practicum. I felt so supported, and I felt so loved. And thank you for who you are. It has helped shape who I am. Thank you.
This is amazing, isn't it? A standing ovation even before everything else happens, to say our deepest thanks. I'd like to call the local committee up too, please, at this point. So please join us here. Just come right up here and be part of this circle. Allison once said, she looked around and wondered if we really had a circle. Yes, we really have a circle this morning. We do indeed, and it's always here. Well, over the past 8 months, Allison, we've had this small group of us here meeting with you about once a month, and of course much more often with Chris and Nancy. We were the local committee, and you know Donna and Carmen, Bill and Sandy, and it's been such a privilege. We had the opportunity to offer all of our support, but in a very specific way. And we also had to challenge Allison and ask her to consider many aspects of her growing and important ministry. And we reflected a lot, didn't we? And what I thought was so neat, I expected to sort of chair the local committee when we met. But in the wisdom of the Center for Christian Studies, Allison chairs that. And she shaped what we might learn and how we might learn together. And so that was just a delightful time for all of us. Well, we have some words to say, don't we now? The local committee, Chris and Nancy. Allison, we share gratitude for your love and compassion, your creativity,
and all that you are. You have been a teacher, as we have been yours. We have walked with each other and grown in depth together. Our lives have been intertwined. As you move on to new challenges, our learnings will continue to inspire us, as we hope they do for you. Allison, our love goes with you.
And we have words together. We thank you, Allison, for our significant and valued life together in this community. We are grateful for who you are and who you are becoming. In our work together, we share gratitude for your kindness, your care, your leadership, and your presence. We're thankful for the role you played in your exploration of ministry and leadership. We wish you continued growth, and know that you will bring your wisdom, strength, and goodness to all you do.
Our lives have been intertwined, and as you move on to new challenges, your positive impact on our community will remain. Allison, our love.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
And I have a gift to give you on behalf of all of us here at Southminster Steiner. I know you're going to love this gift. And we are going to love knowing that you have this gift. I'm going to get you to open it in just a moment here. Well, you can already. Allison is, do you want to go? We can go to the table if you like. Allison is, of course, as you know, very big on symbols. And what could be better than sharing this amazing symbol of who we are together and how you've honored the light, as you so often called us together. And we see in you a great light, Allison, and you've given me great encouragement and hope for the leadership within the United Church of Canada. And I also want to say that we respect your wisdom and your perspectives on life and your growth, that you will know eventually how to express yourself in leadership within your own being and within the church. But we do so hope that you will always relish your place within the United Church of Canada and this starting out. Thank you.
Oh, it's fun to watch more presents get opened. Our closing words are a closing song this morning, and we sing it to Allison, but we sing it to each other as we go into the sacredness to be the ones and to live the life and to go into the world we love.
So Aubrey and Allison and each of us, may the light of love shine in us.